evening, District Advisory Board members and residents of District 6. We are here today to help the District 6 Advisory Board agenda. With that, we'll go ahead and start with the introductions from the board. And I'd like to introduce our new Councilmember Maggie Ballard. All right, if we want to go ahead and start, we can start down at the end with Mr. Rojas.
Sean Rojas.
Angela Martinez.
I'm Bill Washburn.
Sergio Navarro-Najera.
Maggie Ballard.
Ana Lopez, Community Service Representative for District 6.
Elena Welch.
All right, thank you guys. We do call this meeting to order, and first on the agenda we have the approval of the minutes for January 3rd, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
All right, can we go ahead and vote for those? If you vote to approve, we can vote yay.
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 Anybody nay? All right, those go ahead and pass. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Councilmember Ballard.
Is there anybody here from the fire department to give an update? Yeah.
Hello everybody, I'm Lieutenant Aaron Hall from Station 1. For the month of January, there's been 2 fires in our district. Both of them were in vacant structures, and both of them are still undetermined under investigation at this time. They both had about $20,000 to $30,000 of damage to each structure and about $5,000 of contents, but they're undetermined and still under investigation at this time. Other than that, around the city, we have had an increase in structure fires due to the cold weather and heating, warming fires, heaters, that sorts of stuff in your home. So make sure you be very cautious when using space heaters, extension cords, or any other heating items because due to the fact of the cold weather. We do have a recruit class going on right now at the Regional Training Center, which I think is between 2 and 12 candidates down there at the recruit center, and they're going through a 14 to 16 week academy before they are able to come out to the fire stations and be commissioned fire officers. Other than that, do you guys have any other questions for me? Yes, sir.
Any incidents of carbon monoxide poisoning with the cold weather?
We've had it, we go to the carbon monoxide alarms, but as of the actual poisoning, not at this time, not that I'm aware of. But they also, on the carbon monoxide alarms, we have gone through there, most of them have been old detectors, so you need to make sure you change them every 3 to 5 years, or, whenever you think it's going bad, because a lot of times batteries go bad. There's also a service life on the detectors as well, so if the batteries go bad, make sure you change the batteries in those, we change the smoke detectors, and then every few years, buy a new detector itself.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Update from the police department?
Hello, Officer Diaz. I'm the 21 BC police officer down south, which is the Old Town areas of all the largest personal district. Few things on crime stats there. We've seen an increase over the past week in larcenies and autos, especially around the Doug down the Douglas corridor area. So if you go down there, make sure we keep our valuables. Make sure, I'll take this off the top. See an increase in larceny and autos down there in the Douglas corridor area. So if you go downtown, make sure you lock your doors, don't leave valuables in plain sight. So also, the Patrol South CP team, we did a special project with the warmer weather, trying to curb auto theft. We did a warming auto assignment where we went out there real early in the morning and sought out vehicles that were just left running while the homeowners inside their residence or wherever. We located, during that couple-hour period, we located 19 vehicles that were running and that were unlocked where we could just hop right in and stole them. We made out some flyers also, went through some apartment complexes and handed out flyers, just educational flyers teaching people not to do that, because a lot of auto thefts are stolen that way. They're just prime of opportunity for the thieves. They see a car running, they're gonna check, it's unlocked, they're in and out before you even know they're gone. So, don't do that unless you have remote start. If you have remote start, you can do that, because typically your doors can be locked and you can't get it into drive. So if you don't have remote start, don't leave them running. Also, Ms. Ballard asked me to talk about this police department. A lot of people aren't familiar with it. If you go to the App Store, we actually have an app for the Wichita Police Department. It's just Wichita Police Department. You can download it. There's a lot of resources on here. It's a very valuable tool. You can actually, there's DV resources for domestic violence. If you know anybody involved in domestic violence, you can show them resources that they can reach out to get some assistance. You go to WPD Connect, you can report gang graffiti. You can also compliment police officers. If you come in contact with a police officer, you can send a compliment in there. There's all sorts, I mean, there's bunches of things in here you guys you can get in and download. Neighborhood speeding complaints, abandoned vehicles, a lot of stuff you can do right through the app. And then there's also phone numbers, so you can contact your patrol stations, and you can also speak to the investigations department or contact the homeless outreach team. So very good resource. Again, it's just Wichita Police Department. It's on the app page. You can download it. So I have any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Officer Casey Widener. I'm 49 Beat, Community Policing Officer, which is this area here and north of here. To piggyback on what Officer Diaz said, Patrol North Community Policing Team also did a warming assignment. Came in the wee hours of the early morning, driving around looking for running vehicles. We located 29 vehicles that we put flyers on that were running in their driveways or in the street, unattended. Some of them may have had the remote start, but again, if you don't have remote start, don't be warming your vehicles up. I actually had a lady walk out as I was putting a flyer on her door, and she was startled. She thought somebody was trying to steal her car. I was like, well, if I wasn't a police officer, I could have. So I'm just going to piggyback on that. The only other thing I have, Officer Charlie Byers, he works a lot of the North Broadway area. So he just wanted me to pass along this project he's been working years and years on. The Kansas Department of Corrections approved his mapping program for gang members. So what that means is when a documented gang member has 2 arrests in South Broadway or North Broadway, West Kellogg or Old Town, they are mapped out of those areas as part of their parole conditions. They're allowed in the areas Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. to go to classes and court, etc. If they are found in the areas outside of curfew, they'll be arrested and must do 48 hours for the first offense, 72 hours for the second offense, and 72 hours with an ankle monitor for the third offense. And depending on what offense it was that they violated, they could go back to prison. So I know he's been working really hard to get that going, just to kind of keep the riffraff off of Broadway and Old Town, and just kind of problem areas that we're having. Other than that, I think that's all that I have. Questions for me?
Is there a place that we can find more information on that mapping?
I'm not sure. I can ask Charlie. I'll have him. What's your email?
Yeah,
Write it down for
yeah.
me. And I'll have him try to get you some more information on how you can get hold of that.
Awesome, thank you. Wait, oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Does that happen, project put to a constitutional test yet?
What's that?
Has it been put to a constitutional test?
The mapping program?
Yeah.
It's been accepted, yes.
By whom? I didn't ask that, I asked if it's been put to a constitutional.
I am not the one who did. I am not sure what kind of hoops and stuff he has to go through, but it's just to keep violent crimes and violent offenders out of problem areas.
Well, that's I'm just curious what the law is that lets you do that. Like, how does that work? When people, like, can you geofence people out of particular places? I guess I'm a little confused, maybe along the same lines as
So they
This
also,
question-
they've done one with prostitution, it kind of started with prostitution. Prostitutes get mapped out of certain areas if they were caught walking the streets and giving their services in certain areas. They would be mapped out of that area, so they can not be there.
Sure, I guess.
So this is just another segment, only this is for gang members.
So what's the mechanism by which people are mapped out of? I guess that is that like term that to me is a little bit.
So they can be, like I said, they can be in those areas during certain times, but if they're caught in those areas after that time, they can be arrested. So it's almost like a roundabout trespassing, I guess.
How would they be caught though? Like, are they wearing monitors, like GPS, or are they just, they see them?
Again, this is not my mind, so I don't know a lot with it. I'll try to answer as best as I can. I think it's more or less there is a running list. So if an officer recognizes, hey, I know that that guy's mapped or that girl is mapped, then they can do something about it. I don't think, it's not anything that's constantly tracked.
Okay.
It would just kind of be if an officer recognizes somebody, like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, they can look on this list, this master list, be like, oh yeah, they're mapped out of here, they're not supposed to be here.
Is this just for convicted felons or for people that just happen to be on the gang list?
As far as I know, it's just documented gang members.
No, well, I didn't ask that, I asked if it was convicted felons or people that are on the gang list, because there's a lot of people on the gang list that aren't convicted felons. that have never
Right,
done
so
anything
just
wrong.
be a gang member, I mean, whether they're felons or not, it's gang members.
So I guess kind of what's concerning to me is, my understanding is that the gang list that the police department is keeping is actually under, like it's being,
Well, there's a suit now.
There's a suit.
There's a suit in federal court.
and this seems really rather similar to that insofar as like, it's not very clear, at least right now, what the mechanism, how are people being kept out of this? Is there a specific law that allows the police to target specific people to make sure that they're not?
Sir, we'll get to your question in just a minute, okay?
And then do you have concerns about the similarities between like this and your current list protocol that's being challenged right now? This seems like, bold, I guess.
I don't know how to answer your question, it's just a program that he has started with the Kansas Department of Corrections. They partnered with them in doing this.
I think next time we'll try to see if we can get the officer to come and explain it a little bit more, so, sorry for
Yeah, I'll
that.
see if, I'm sorry, this is his baby, and
Yeah.
he just want me to pass along that it got
Sure, yes,
passed and is now in effect,
awesome, thank you,
Yeah.
sorry.
and, sorry, I don't have more for you guys,
Thank you.
it's just, he has more information on it.
Sure.
All right.
Good evening, I'm Officer Mike Johnson of Patrol West. Does anyone here, does anyone know about Second Chance Thursdays? Has anyone not heard of Second Chance Thursdays? Great. 17th, week from this coming Thursday, we're gonna do it at Central 2. We chose our location, they were kind enough to give us the building, got a fee, yay, okay, we're gonna do it 9 to 5. Please pass that information on to everyone. Also with that, Pathways came, we talked to us last Tuesday, and their program is called Next Step. And what that is they're accepting applications. If you know someone that is a felon, minimum required, they have to be 21 years of age to enter this program. They can enter it, if they get accepted, they then go to a trade provided by Wichita Tech and other entities. They have teamed up with Textron, they have teamed up with some welding person at WSU and other programs to where they go through, like, they explained to us, the welding program is a 5-month program. You have to go and pass everything. they guarantee a job, making $50,000. Once again, you have to be on paper, as in parole, okay, or probation. You have to be 21 years of age, and you have to be willing to come in every day and learn and train. We thought that was a good entity for the city. Like Second Chance, we want this to go nationwide. They asked to come and join us. We said absolutely, and they wanted us to get the information out. So, we're going on Second Chance Thursdays. Anyone with a city violation, city, not county, county has not really came on board yet. If the city, you have a city traffic warrant, the only thing that we cannot do is DUIs. The judge has not granted us that. But if you come, we'll give you a new court date. That's the second chance to where you will not walk out and go to jail for a misdemeanor. If you come to us with a felony, you're gonna get the civil bracelets. That's just what it is. Okay? Stupid is, stupid does, and what I like to call it. You don't come to us with a felony. 2, we also have the city of Wichita, they're the girls that will take care of money. So if you need to pay for your warrants while you're there, they are a great asset. Also what they do, if you can't pay, they will try to give you community service on the spot. They will call the judge and say, listen, I have this person, they're willing, can we do this instead of this? It works great. That helps us out. Then we also have the state, who if they can, they get that person reinstated, okay, with the driver license on the spot. Period. So it's been very successful. We're happy with this new program coming along. We want to keep building, and we just want Wichita to be safe. Any questions, comments?
What was the name of that second program you were talking about?
Pathways to Success, Next Step. I will leave this flyer, this brochure here. You can take a picture, copy it, or whatever. I'll give it to Anna. And that's all their information right there. But they can only accept, I know, 20 to 30 people at a time. But we ask the magical question, what if you do get more? They says, listen, WSU has been very, very accommodating. If we need to squeeze 1 to 5 to 10 more people into this program, that's what we're going to do. And they have big companies here in the city of Wichita that is backing them, so you get the education, they don't have to pay for anything. So, if you know someone, please contact.
I'm paying $1,500 a semester to send my son to a 2-year welding program in a distant city. And this gives us an incentive to have him commit a felony.
I'm gonna give you a quick, this is way off the record.
I could think of something for him and I'll save all this money. I think you get it
Well,
in
that-
5 months instead of 2 years.
You contact the big people who's supporting that, and that's their money that they're willing to help out the people, because here's the problem when we hear. When we talk to these individuals, they always say, I can't get a job because of my background. What am I going to do? I can't be successful. Now they don't have an excuse. Because in the same meeting, I had the same exact thoughts as, listen, I'm close to retirement. All I need to do is go steal a 82-inch TV for the Super Bowl. Now I'm a felon. Now I can go through a 5-month rapid program and be a welder and make how much? I got you what you're saying. But this is not for me to say. This is that City of Wichita, some of the big corporations, like, we want to hire skilled people. How can we get that? They came up with this program, and so far it's been successful. They want to piggyback on our Second Chance Thursdays and say, come on down, we will help you out as much as we can.
And let me provide some clarification. It's not the fact that they're a felon is what gets them in this program for the free piece of tuition and fees. They qualify for a program through the state called Accelerated Opportunities, which means that they go through dual education through Goodwill as well as the technical program. So they get life skills, they get support skills, they get job skills at the same time that they're going through the training. So we provide them support at the same time. We do that for all of our students. So it's Accelerated Opportunities program that provides them the free tuition and fees. It's not the fact that they're felons.
Any other comments, concerns?
Susie, did you have a question?
Isn't that what union used to do, or using the union people to help train?
No, unions have their own setup
Well, they used to.
through the union, and it's a 5-year program through the union. And it's not just welding, CNC, it's construction, it's automotive. All industries that are hurting right now for labor in our city.
Okay,
Is that it?
thank you very much.
Everybody?
Have the public library update?
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing tonight? Great. Well, I think I'll start with the most exciting order of business, which is that if I put my glasses on, I can see what I'm reading. After a whole year of renovations, Evergreen Community Center and Library is finally going to open on Monday, February 14th. Now, this project in the North End took Evergreen Branch Library and they reconfigured the whole space to make a one-stop shop for our community services in the area. This facility is going to not only house the library, but also the Neighborhood Resource Center, Empower, and more essential agencies and services. So we encourage everybody to stop by and take a look once it's open on February 14th. Show up and love your library/community center. We have a brand new program that we're partnering, the library is partnering with Arts Partners. It's a series called Artists to Authors. And it's being hosted at the Advanced Learning Library through May 16th. And these weekly sessions are assisting 20 local artists and helping them write their very first children's book. They're working on picture books. Multiple formats they're using with their work for schools, and they're going to introduce that to local school children. Artists were selected by applications and interviews. Library staff are joining the artists for several weeks to share information about the library resources, including our AV studio, Canva, things that make a great picture book, tools that they can use to put their project together. So keep your eyes open for that as we have more local artists that are now going to become authors. We have a Senior Wednesday program coming up on February 9th this week. It's going to highlight the history of radio in America. If you've heard of Lance Hayes, the retired program director from KMUW, he's going to be the one who presents. You can visit wichitalibrary.org/events to register. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Mac computers, we are hosting a basics program on February 15th and a Beyond the Basics program on February 22nd. Yes, 22nd. Those are both on Zoom, and you can hit our events page to register for that. And probably our biggest point is that we're really excited about our 14th year to host the Big Read. The Big Read is a community, one book, one community event. It's going to kick off Saturday, February 12th, and it's going to run all the way until May 5th. I don't know what day of the week that is, but it's May 5th. This annual program gives you the chance to read and explore a common book. It's Wichita's biggest book club, and this year we're exploring The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. It's about Esperanza Cordero. She's a young Latina girl growing up in Chicago, and she begins to invent for herself who she is and what she will become. And the story of Esperanza's childhood is told through a series of short vignettes, and we're going to have arts and cultural programming at the kickoff celebration February 12th. There's going to be music and readers theater, and the great thing is that you can all watch from the comfort of your own homes. We decided to take it to Zoom for safety purposes. You watch the virtual kickoff party in order to find out where you can go by and pick up your free book. So who likes free books? I should ask who doesn't like free books, right? And that will be 5 to 6:30 p.m. That's the book pickup on February 12th after the virtual kickoff party. Featured events that we're going to have during those months, including a keynote featuring Kansas Poet Laureate Huáscar Medina. That's going to be 2:30 p.m. March 13th at the Advanced Learning Library. A virtual film festival by Mama Film that's going to feature films about Mexican American culture. That will take place the weekend of March 5th. And we're going to have a keynote with author Sarah Smarsh, 6 p.m. May 5th at the Advanced Learning Library to wrap it all up. And more information about that is going to be available at bigreadwichita.org. Any library-related questions?
Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Public Works and Utilities.
Thank you. Gary Jansen, City Engineer. We provide an update on capital projects within each district on a quarterly basis. And it used to be, the last couple of years, we were kind of hit and miss on some of the district advisory boards, but we're covering all 6 now, which I think is good. Construction, especially this time of year, was a little bit slow, especially with the weather, so we decided that quarterly was a little bit better, trying to do every month. You just don't see a lot of progress necessarily on some projects. So I've got a list that we discuss each month with Councilmember Ballard that I'll go through. Again, mostly major projects within the district, and other things that might come up as we need to discuss. So I think most of you are probably aware, we finally got the traffic signal operational at Zoo Boulevard and Hoover. It was a little bit of a long time coming, just like a lot of the work that we're doing. There were some supply chain issues, some material issues. Finally got that overcome. Seems to be working well. Been out there to watch it several times. There had been a crash history there, and with the amount of traffic, it warranted a signal. And so that's good to have that in. I'll talk more about going north on Hoover Road here in just a minute, because that kind of ties into that traffic signal. We've got an annual pavement preservation program. This year's $11 million. City Council has dedicated more funding to this program every year, and I think it's really important. At the end of this current 10-year capital improvement program, it'll be at $20 million a year. So we've got 5,100 lane miles of streets across the city. We've been trying to figure out the best way to attack that many streets all at once and have the biggest impact we can and get the most return on investment. And I think we've done a really good job in the last 5 years of gaining on that. In 2011, when we were still kind of using some old methods and some things for pavement preservation that maybe just weren't working as well, we only got to 80 some miles of that 5,100 miles in 2011. Reason being, if we were trying to attack streets and make them like new, which is okay, but you just don't get very far. So we were focusing primarily on the major arterials, a lot of the residential streets. Nothing was happening to you. You can imagine if you only get to 80 some miles. Starting in 2013, we had some pilot projects that we started working on, looking at different methods, different ways of preserving all of our streets. Since that time, keep in mind 80 miles in 2011. In 2020, we got to over 450 miles of streets. Now, that doesn't mean that we were doing the exact same treatments and getting something that's going to last as long. However, we've got a 40-year model. It's an iterative model. It takes in a lot of data, and it looks at all 5,100 miles at the same time. It allows us to get the best return on investment for all $11 million. It allows us to increase our remaining service life of all of our pavement, increase our asset value, and really get us where we need to be for the future. And what it does is it takes 60% of the funding and protects the streets from the top down and 40% from the bottom up. And it really is, we have found just the right sweet spot to be able to get to as many streets as we can, but still be impactful in what we're doing. You know, it used to be that, and people don't like the way it looks in residential neighborhoods, but when we go out and seal cracks in asphalt pavement, it looks like a big map out there. Nobody likes the way it looks. Very effective, very cost-effective and efficient method to prolong the structural stability of our pavement. The climate we live in, especially what we've seen the last few weeks, you get a lot of freeze-thaw issues once pavement starts to crack. If you let that moisture in there and don't keep it out, that's when you start to see spalling, that's when you start to see pavement blowing up and having a lot of issues. We started having contractors doing that. We can cover a lot of ground as opposed to just our maintenance forces. It's been very effective and worked really well. On our major streets, when we go in and repair what's there, put a new surface on it, we found a new way to do that with different types of materials, trying to be innovative and a lot more cost effective that we could cover a lot more streets. Back when I talked about in 2011, the method that we used, we just weren't getting very far, 80 miles, right? We've got a lot more streets in every single district now that we're able to take care of on those arterial streets by that method. It's working well. I think we've got a great program in place. One of the things that's nice about it, so before we have this model, and I can remember going to these types of meetings and people would ask about, when is my street going to get taken care of? we were kind of trying to just say, we'll take whatever works first, so it kind of sounds okay, but that's not the most effective way to do it. If we could go out and build all of our streets new overnight, the best thing we could do is start protecting them right away. And so I'll talk about that in just a minute. But we weren't able to really answer well on those questions, what are you gonna do? So we just kind of started prioritizing by when they came in, who was asking, if a council member was asking. That's not the best way to do business. This model now can tell us, when people see a street's not in good shape, they're usually pretty right, you know? And so a lot of times we'll look in the model and it may just be a couple years out and we're gonna do something. And that's good to know, right? Or we've had times too, we have someone who is dedicated to looking at the condition of our streets every 18 months, across the city. But you know what, sometimes things change for whatever reason and we don't catch it. So it's good that people call and we'll go out and look and we may reevaluate that street and may change where it's at. So anyway, I'm not gonna bore you with all this list of stuff here necessarily. What I'll tell you is that the outsourced pavement preservation program is really easy to find on the city's website. It's on the top ribbon. It's got some really good information in it about the overall program, the types of treatments, what's happening in each district. It's got a street list for every single district. It's really easy to follow, in my opinion. Once the work starts here, once the weather clears up, some of it has started. It's got an interactive map to show you where the work's being done and what's coming up. So we have a little bit of the 2021 program that's still hanging on. I mentioned crack sealing. We actually have some on Broadway from 29th to 33rd Street coming up. I mentioned the asphalt overlays, the things that really make the biggest impact. I'm sure if anybody's aware of 21st Street in Waco and how bad a shape that is in over at Arkansas, we are going to take care of that this year. So we'll go in and repair everything that's bad there. We'll put a new surface down, it'll look like a brand new street. We do a lot of what we call micro-surfacing in residential neighborhoods. Similar process, go in and patch what's bad, take care of all of the base issues. It's a thinner seal that we put on there, mostly to protect everything that's there and kind of make it all look the same. Can you go on down there? One of the things we do, I wanted to mention this preservative seal when I talked about trying to protect our investment and if we had new trees. We go in, this is very inexpensive, it's quick, it doesn't have much impact on traffic. So we'll go in on all of the streets that we overlaid last year and put a new surface on, we're putting a preservative treatment on them this year. It's not that asphalt's not good, but there's some materials that are made, it's just a spray-on material effectively that will extend the life of that pavement at a very low cost. So that's one of the things we found in the model that works really well, and that's what that preservative seal is. We've got a lot of concrete streets around town. We have a pretty big project in District 6 on Mosley from 13th to 17th Street to completely rebuild that through there. It's currently 4 lanes. We're going to make it into a 3-lane roadway, which will better accommodate the trucks. We've talked to the users along there, especially Cargill. They're happy to see that it's going to be wider lanes. It's effectively what we did on 17. That pavement is in really bad shape. It's been beat up by the trucks over the years, so that one will be good to get done. I'm going to move on then to some other projects. 17th Street from Broadway to I-135. I'm sure most of you know that road's been closed what seems like forever, because it has been closed almost forever. 100% waiting on the railroad. Just the fact of the matter. The project is substantially complete. Working with the railroad is a challenge. There's multiple railroads in that corridor. I think we finally have things resolved. Contractor got back in there to start working again right when the bad weather hit. So I'm hoping that we get that back open here soon. I've been hoping that for a long time, but we're at the mercy of the railroad right now, and I think that we're getting close. Down on the bottom, it talks about Douglas traffic signal improvements from McLean Boulevard to Hydraulic. We've got 600 signalized intersections across the city, and that's growing. There's a lot of good technology out there that we provide with those new traffic signal systems. But what we need is to be able to bring them all together collectively. And so it's a big effort. It's something that the city council decided to start putting funding to specifically a couple of years ago. And so we've got a dedicated effort now to optimize our traffic signal system as much as we can. And what that means is better travel times, less stops at red lights, not sitting at red lights as long, and trying to coordinate the corridors. We're putting in a communication system which allows us to be able to talk to the signals more so than we were in the past. We can help diagnose problems and fix them. Technology is not perfect, right? We have a lot of, so we used to have cameras and we have radar now on our traffic signals that helps with vehicle detection, right? And so it helps somewhat time the signals, it helps program them, it helps with those people there. We get power outages, it throws things off, the wind doesn't help, dust doesn't help. At one time, we had cameras that were getting wasp nests in them, you wouldn't think that with technology. We've tried to find new things to overcome that. Point being, the better we can communicate with these signals ourselves, the quicker we can get out and fix those things. We also need the signals to be able to talk to each other, be on the same timing, be able to coordinate with each other. So our focus right now is downtown. There's 13 traffic signals on this corridor. We'll be done by this spring. So you gotta keep in mind, that doesn't mean that you get green going every direction all the time, because while Douglas is a major corridor, you've also got markets, you've got Broadway. We gotta find the best balance of traffic. In the morning, northbound Market carries a lot of traffic, people coming in off of Kellogg to work downtown. So what'll happen is they'll get the priority mostly in the morning, so that you get better flow of traffic on Market. But overall, this is gonna provide better progression again, not as many red lights, not sitting as long, it's helped with air quality as much as anything. And it helps again, our goal is to have people not have to sit at lights as long as they do, and we'll get there. So we're working downtown right now. This infrastructure for this is expensive. I think a lot of people think you flip a switch on a timer for a signal, but it's not quite how it works. Downtown, there's hardly any pedestrian push buttons, right? So everything's set on a timer. On certain streets downtown, you always see a red light even if no one's there. That's because it has to allow time if there's a pedestrian. That lends itself to people potentially running red lights, which becomes a safety issue. So we're adding pedestrian push buttons so all of that can work together. Anyway, pretty cool stuff. I think it's gonna work well. With the new federal infrastructure bill, there's an emphasis on reducing our carbon footprint, and there's specific funding for this type of work that we're hoping we could have an opportunity to get additional funding. We could get a lot more done a lot quicker if we could get an infusion of funds, so we'll work hard on that. Moving on to some projects under design, 29th Street North and 135 to Meade, particularly at 29th in Ohio, with the way that all of those businesses are growing. Johnson Controls is growing about as fast as I've ever seen a business grow. Dold is in the area. Conco Construction's getting ready to double. Eric Sell's up there and added jobs. It's really adding a lot of stress to that area. So we have started designing and looking at concepts to make some improvements there. Probably expect that construction to be done in 2023. That's a project that will come before this district advisory board for approval of a concept, probably sometime in the next 3 or 4 months. 21st Street, 135 to Mosley is in the same area. Probably see a lot of work happening on the old Derby refinery site. There's new development going in there for spec warehousing and buildings. There's a truck center going in there. It's gonna be a lot more traffic. So we're working on a design for improvements there to go to 5 lanes with some additional turn lanes. That project also will be coming for the DAB relatively soon. Last time I was here at this DAB, we talked about the Hammond Bridge at 18th Street over the Big Arc River. At that time, our plan was, and right now kind of still is, was to close the bridge for what could be 12 to 14 months. And the reason why we made that recommendation then was cost and timing. We can build a bridge half the time. It's challenging. There's a lot of risk associated with it. There's time and cost. We were looking at almost 40% of cost and double the time. But there's a big factor here in emergency response times, and I've been able to work closely with Councilmember Ballard, and I have to say I'm glad that she brought us back to the discussion again. We've closed bridges before in the community further south, right? The difference there is it's pretty easy to get around. This is a pretty unique area at 18th and I call it 18th and Hammond Arc River, because you've got both rivers on either side, right? So you got the big river on the west, the little river on the east, and it really makes a huge impact on how you get around, right, through those neighborhoods. So we have taken a step back and looking at that again. Councilmember Ballard has got us engaged with the fire department, looking at things there. I hope we can still find a way to close the bridge for some variety of reasons, but maybe find a way for the fire department to operate differently during that time. Which, I don't know what that means yet, we're still working on it, but we haven't finished that thought of closing it yet, and we're not going to until we spend some more time on this. Aquatics master plan, I'll mention real quick. We're getting close to finishing the work on the $25 million project across the city. We've built 6 new pools, 6 new splash pads, some of them in the same location, but rebuilding where it's at. One of the things that had to give a little bit originally on the design of that project from a financial standpoint was we didn't do a lot of the bathhouses as much as we'd like to. We've got some remaining funding, we're trying to find some more funding, we're evaluating all the bathhouses now. That would include Manissa and Orchard in District 6, and we're hoping to come back to them and make some additional improvements. I talked about the traffic signal at Zoo and Hoover. Next thing that's coming there is we're designing improvements to Hoover then, from Zoo to 29th Street North. Traffic counts are increasing. There's a desire for a multi-use path there, because not north of 29th, there's a path that was built privately all the way up to K96. Having that signal at Zoo is gonna really help then, because eventually you can get from the Zoo all the way up north to those neighborhoods and back. That's scheduled for construction in 2023. McLean Boulevard, Central to 13th, we've been talking about for a while, and it's going to finally get going soon. We're going to convert McLean from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, mostly from a traffic safety standpoint and traffic calming. When you look at the way McLean is set up now, and on the east side of McLean, there are no points of access, right? It's the river. That lends itself even more to this working well. We look at the traffic counts, the 3-lane can accommodate it fine. One of the reasons why we're doing that too is to make it easier for people to cross in the 9th Street area. It's a lot easier to cross 3 lanes than it is to cross 4 lanes. It's proven that it's much safer. 3 lanes for vehicles is also safer than 4 lanes every time. Studies have shown that, especially when it comes to anybody northbound making a left turn. We're also going to add a signalized crossing at 10th Street. It's about the best place in there for line of sight. There's sidewalk to that point so that people, if they want to get across, which we've heard from citizens for several years now, that desire, and so that's why we're doing that. So that'll get fired up in the spring. 2 more items. One is Old Town District Speed Study. You know, when we rebuilt 2nd Street, we put in the speed tables, which I'm sure everybody's, if you've been down there, you're aware of it, Mosley and Meade. Some people like them, some people hate them, but they've been effective. Our goal has been to make Old Town more pedestrian friendly, right? In hindsight, when we were rebuilding First Street, we probably should have done the same thing. We wanted to see how these worked. But what we're looking at doing across all of Old Town, we're still looking at the data now, is reducing the speed limit, especially on First and 2nd Street. I think it needs to be done. Generally, we talk about speed limits and say, hey, the people are going to drive the way the environment feels to them, the way the road was designed. They're going to drive the speed that they feel safe, regardless of what the posted speed limit is, and it's hard to enforce that. We think in the Old Town area in particular, we need to try to enforce that. And we need to change the ordinance. So that's something that we're working on. Eventually, that would have to go to the City Council for approval. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that by this summer. Last thing I wanted to mention, KDOT's current Eisenhower Legacy Transportation Plan, which is funding transportation improvements across the state for the next 10 years, started a couple years ago. We've got multiple things going on within that plan. Everybody's aware of what's happening at the North Junction. There's one more phase of that to be bid this summer that will start in the fall. That'll be all completed in 2025. K96 from 135, actually the 21st Street is scheduled to be expanded to 6 lanes and to rebuild the interchanges at Woodlawn Rock and Webb, which is really needed. That roadway is at capacity a lot of times during the day, and with what's going on out at Greenwich especially, it's just going to get worse, so that'll be a good project. That's scheduled to start after the North Junction in 2026. In the meantime, KDOT has awarded funding to the next phase of East Kellogg, which goes from it'll go from K96 to 2.5 miles east of there, which is a half mile east of 159th Street, $220 million. City of Wichita, Sedgwick County, Andale, and Dover, Butler County will be partners in the local funding, and that'll continue the freeway expansion. We're having a lot of issues at 143rd Street, especially with the way, there's some issues on K96 too with the ramps, there's still a lot of rollovers, there's a lot of delay at 143rd, so it'll be a good project. They want to try to do that aggressively and get that started and do that as a design build project and also have that done by 2025. So in theory, the North Junction, East Kellogg, the bookends would be done by 2025 and then K96 would fire up in 2026. So right now through 2028, that's over $500 million of transportation improvements just along that corridor. So that'll be a lot coming up. Thank you for bearing with me. That's all I have.
That's it.
The asphalt overlays. I'm in a residential area and I've lived here for over 49 years, so we have several overlays. The street gets so high and your dip is still low getting into your driveway, but unless you hold your mouth right, your car drags. Is there any way they can shave the edges of those off?
We've tried to look at doing different things. That was from past practices that should not have been done. And what we're doing now typically doesn't add much thickness, but it also doesn't go back and fix that. But I appreciate you mentioning that because we've heard that before. We do have the ability to go in along the edges and mill that down. And so that's something we can look at and do.
As I recall, just running off memory here, the North Junction had 3 phases to it. First phase is done. This looks like the second phase. Wasn't there like a purple phase as well?
Well, the purple phase is long-term.
Okay.
That was conceptual design only. The very first phase, which wasn't exactly at the North Junction, was the green phase, which was everything west of there that
Right.
is done now. And we had an accelerated gold phase, which is under construction right now, which is building the northbound to westbound flyover. It's kind of cool to see that coming together. And then the final part of the gold phase will take care of a lot of the, well, right now when you're coming southbound in the morning and there's that massive merge from 135 to K96, it's going to effectively create that to where they're separated a lot better. So you get a lot better flow of traffic through there. Where Southwest Paper and all those businesses are, those will all be gone because those ramps will move farther to the west. But the purple phase, and then also too, westbound 96. If you're wanting to go southbound on 35, you got to take that slow loop ramp to get on 35. It'll actually be a flyover ramp to tie into 135. It will be a lot more safer and a lot more efficient. It's going to take away, the last part of the gold phase, it's just going to take away a lot of that congestion where everybody comes together at the same time. So it'll be a good project.
I had a question about bridges. Do you have a set time where you decide a bridge needs to be replaced?
So we've got 285 bridges in our system. They're required by federal law to be formally inspected every 2 years, which we do. We have, and I would have to tell you from talking to people in the industry, our bridge system is in amazing shape compared to most of the rest of the country. We've done really well with maintenance funding to try to stay on top of them. Every 2 years when we do that inspection, that includes a detailed maintenance plan of things that need to be done. And so we are dedicated to that, stay to that. So there's some factors that come into play. The main one is the determination. So they look at 3 things on a bridge. I'm not going to bore you with all the engineering details. But it's the deck, the superstructure, everything you see on top, and then the substructure, which is the foundation. And there's a number system that goes into that, and if it's low enough, it's considered structurally deficient. That's usually the time we need to start looking at. That doesn't mean a bridge is in peril. Some of the times what we'll do is load rate it. You've seen load rating signs with trucks on them.
Oh, yeah.
That limits the size of trucks and the size of loads that goes over the bridges. That can be challenging if it's on a major corridor. That usually means we need to go in and make some repairs. But we've done a great job, I think, to stay on top of it. We only have, which is really unheard of, out of 285, maybe 3 or 4 bridges right now that are actually considered structurally deficient, and a few of them, this is kind of hard to explain, but it's just based on the fact when it was designed compared to today's standards, it doesn't exactly meet it, but they're still in really good shape. So right now, we don't have a lot going on with bridges more than anything, so.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering in particular about the Bidding Street Bridge.
On which one?
Bidding?
I think and I will tell you, bridges can be deceiving, and I'm not a certified bridge inspector. If you ever go down along the path along the river and walk under the 1st and 2nd Street Bridge there, and you see all that exposed steel, we hear from people all the time about that. And while it looks bad, it's really just a cosmetic issue. And it was because of how it was designed over the years. They designed the drainage to go right off the edge of the deck, which was a bad design. Over the years of putting salt on the bridges for ice and snow control, it just starts to create that issue with deterioration along the bridge. Not enough section loss yet that we call it. It's not a structural issue. It looks bad. It's really expensive to fix it just to make it look better, and that's all it would do. At some point in time, that will get worse, and we will make a repair to it. But it's just not worth the money to do that right now. So some bridges start to look pretty bad, but they're still in good shape.
Are you talking about the 1st and 2nd Street? Oh,
I was talking about 1st and
Bidding.
2nd Street.
Okay.
I'm not aware of the Bidding Street Bridge and
Oh,
any
okay.
issues, but I will look at it.
Oh, no, I was just curious if you knew, if there was a time, you know, it's a 50-year-old bridge, I didn't know if that made any difference.
You know, most bridges
1961?
most bridges now are built to,
Oh, it's in 61, it's completely been torn down and rebuilt? Oh,
most bridges now are built to last
They didn't
75
make
to
it.
100 years.
Suzie, do you have a question?
Yeah, the historic bridge by North Island and Issa Bridge, we spent like $6 million on that.
Redoing it, rebuilding it, or what?
Yes.
Anyway, on the west side, on the southwest corner underneath, the foundation's all washed out. It's cracked,
I've seen it.
crack's gone up, and went right through the Indian and popped in the middle of the road. So that's cosmetic, but we'd like for somebody to come and look at that and make sure that, because that bridge was cut, do you remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah. I was right in the middle of that project, yeah.
Fabulous, but it's failing already, and those trees of heaven are like growing right up into it. It needs to be taken care of better.
And I appreciate that. We'll make sure we take a look at it.
It is bad.
Anybody else?
Oh, I just have one observation. I love bridges and roads, and it's very cool. It strikes me that there's like a tool in this that I didn't see mentioned, but that in terms of addressing traffic congestion, like, does engineering work with transit at all to like include buses in transit solutions rather than additional lanes? And just my own preference would be that we include additional bus routes before we expand lanes. And that's largely because we have to figure out ways to stop driving and make that more convenient, just in terms of carbon footprint and climate change and also city resources coming up. And so I know that maybe that's not like totally integrated, but before you come back, I think it'd be super swell to have some kind of idea of like, how can transit work with some of these traffic things and to be included maybe in some of the infrastructural planning as part of traffic reduction?
So I can tell you, we work closely with transit. Mike Tan, our transit director, if he was here, I can quote this because I heard him say this. He says, don't add lanes for us. He says, we'll make it work. He's been in bigger communities where it worked. We converted Broadway from 13th to 21st from 4 to 3 lanes. There's 8 stops up in that area on Broadway.
Yeah.
He said, don't do it. It'll work. We won't be able to go to that side that long. We might block the bike lane. People can go around on the center lane. And he's a believer that eventually people might start noticing buses more and realize that, hey, they gotta take the bus. So, that's my.
Once they run more often.
That's been Mike Tan's general answer, don't add lanes, and we don't. He's confident that he can make those bus stops work with even less lanes, so he's the expert, and that's what we go with.
Yeah, no, I love it. I just thinking about that as you were talking.
No, and I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Dad.
Who inspects the bridges?
So we hire out, every 2 years, we've got funding within our CIP to hire certified bridge inspectors. It's usually engineering consultants that work in Wichita. And what we do, I found over time that we had hired some of the same consultants. Bridge inspection, there's a lot of engineering goes into it, there's some art that goes into it, and there's a little bit of guessing. And the reason why I say that is because we've had times when federal money was involved. I can remember a time on the Lincoln Street Bridge when we were building a new dam. We had 3 different inspection firms look at it, and none of them got quite the same results. It wasn't glaringly different, but it was enough to impact it. So we shake up who we have inspect our bridges every couple of years so that we get a different look at them. But yeah, they're certified through the state and through federal highway.
Anybody else? Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
All right, so we are now at the portion of the public agenda, and this is a portion of the agenda that provides an opportunity for citizens to present issues that are not part of the regular agenda for this meeting. There is a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, and we do have two scheduled items. The first one is the Riverside Garden, and presenting this item is Missy Short.
Thank you, I appreciate the chance to stand up. My name is Missy Short, as Anna said, and I am here to present an idea about a community garden in North Riverside Park. Now, the board has already received this ahead of time, and it was our PowerPoint demonstration. And although I'm not going to follow along, I'm going to kind of give the board themselves an idea of the things that weren't mentioned in our PowerPoint presentation. I want to start with my own story of the Riverside Community Garden, which is currently on Riverside Drive. I rent in Riverside. I'm a, empty nester. My kids have grown, had kids, and I wanted to downsize, so I wanted to move to a walking neighborhood, an open neighborhood. I lived out west, so I found Riverside my new home. About a year after I moved there, they opened a community garden, and I was like, oh, I'll wait and see, a kind of attitude. But by the next year, I was on board. I was game. I was ready for it. It got me out of the house more. It got me to exercise more. It was fun to just interact with people in the neighborhood and people outside of the neighborhood that chose to be there. There were some disadvantages as far as I was concerned in the community part of the community garden. The beds were very expensive to rent for the year. They were $50. They were raised beds, which was fine. They didn't have a lot of community projects or community events centered around the garden. So when the homeowner told us that he wanted his lot back, which did belong to him, he generously had let the garden use it. There were a few of us standing in the garden when Chris Rogers came to give us the news, and it was a little bit surprising considering it was May and we were all there to plant. So we took our plants home and, kind of thought, well, what do we do? We met again under the pergola that's currently in the garden, and we started to talk about what would we do if we started a community garden? What would we change? And so some of the things we decided we would change is we would have ground plots and raised beds.
1 minute left.
Okay, ground plots and raised beds. We would have community events. We would grow food for the community. These are just a few of the things. We even thought so far as growing food for the Kansas Wildlife Exhibit and so on. So those were kind of the things we wanted to bring the community into the community garden. We started to look for a spot. It was mentioned to us by the park board to possibly look for a park spot. So we did. We looked at several locations, and we decided on Riverside, North Riverside Park, which is across from Park Villa, I might add. So once we got that kind of going, we decided we also wanted to do it right this time. We filed for our FO. We got our letter of incorporation. It's ICT Community Gardens Incorporated. We're doing business as Riverside Garden. We got our bylaws in place, our vision and mission statements, our goals that we wanted to set. What am I forgetting? gardener contracts, and we're still working on something every single week. And I would like to, one last statement, there are 29,000 community gardens in the United States in public parks at this time. So if there's any questions, we love feedback, that's why we're here.
Well, thank you, Missy. Does the DAB have any comments or questions on this item?
Have you thought about incorporating the schools in the area?
Certainly, I'm glad you said that, because that was on my card, and that's one thing I couldn't get focused on, learning beds. It needs to be a learning garden. So that can be learning beds for a grandparent, a grandchild, it can be big brothers and sisters, it can be, and we also would like to partner with other nonprofits in their needs for volunteering.
Any other questions?
Yeah, hi, thanks for the presentation.
You're welcome.
We received several letters, expressing concern about the acquisition of public space for what appears to be a largely private project. That would be something that I'd be kind of concerned about, and I want to hear more about, like, how are you going to navigate that kind of tension, right, between, this is public space, and, you know, the most prominent picture that you have is a fenced-in area, you know, that's basically moving that from public use.
Right.
So, you know, is there like a percentage of lots that you plan on sticking to, and then like some that are donated to the community?
Exactly, and that's, I didn't have enough for my presentation, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm glad you brought that up. We are having dedicated spaces to growing food for the community. We also will have dedicated ground lots for sweat equity. Not everybody can buy into a lot, even though we're bringing those $50 prices down to a more reasonable $25 if you'd like to rent a plot. They would be separated from the paid-for plots. Yeah, it does have a fence around it. There are some things that you need to take into consideration when you're dealing with other people's vegetable gardens. One is theft, one is vandalism, one is the securing tools and your shed. We also, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's another thing, we also plan to have an entire day that the garden will be open for the public to come in and sit and enjoy. We also, you can't see this, but the pergola we would like to put outside along with the butterfly garden and the learning beds. So those can be easily accessed 24/7. And what was your other question? Oh, about using a public land. There's nothing in this garden that is permanent. The shed doesn't sit on a permanent foundation. The pergola sits on no permanent foundation. You know, there's nothing that can't be reclaimed, I guess is what I want to say. At the end of, because we're simply using it and we're not claiming it as our own. We don't own it in any respect. But we would be in charge of and responsible for all the maintenance of North Riverside Park, therefore saving the public a considerable amount of money on maintenance. We also have fruit trees, which will also be outside of the fence area and available to the public.
All right, do we have any other questions from the DAB?
Is your current park fenced and gated?
This current park, no, I think there's a picture of what the
Or
park
your
looks
current
like.
park that you're having to maintain? Is it?
No, it wasn't, I'm sorry, it wasn't in a park. It was on a private lot.
Was it fenced and gated?
No, it was not. It was hidden. It wasn't hidden. It was tucked back away unless you knew it was there. It wasn't necessarily a street that was walked a lot by people other than in the neighborhood.
Did you, and maybe this is kind of an additional thing, was there an effort made to acquire another private lot somewhere in the neighborhood that?
An effort made. There were several lots shown to, now there aren't any in the neighborhood that we're talking of. And if you're going to have, I mean, the people on the board, we currently live in the neighborhood, and if you have a community garden, it's best to have your board or someone on the board that lives in the neighborhood that can actually keep track of what's going on, for obvious reasons. But we did look, but they were all so far away from where everybody who had currently decided to volunteer for the board lived. And there's also the cost.
I don't know if anybody noticed, but lots like tripled in cost overnight. It was crazy.
All right, do we have any other questions from the DAB? Sir, this is a public agenda item. You will have a chance to speak on the item on the agenda items. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, we have item 5.2, and this is an interactive map illustrating the proposal Evergy transmission line route through Midtown and Riverside. And we have Susan Cunningham presenting this item.
I don't have an interactive map tonight because we don't have that function, right?
We do.
Oh, we do? You pulled it up? Cool. Okay. Well, my name's Susie Cunningham, and congratulations, by the way, and welcome to your first DAB meeting as a council member. I'm here, I'm going to get my glasses on. I'm here to let you know that last summer I attended a meeting organized by State Representative John Carmichael. It was attended by, you can play with it while I'm talking, that'd be great. It was attended by Riverside Citizens Association, Historic Midtown, North Riverside, and me representing the Little Arkansas Community Coalition. Also in attendance were some of the historic homeowners that will be impacted by the Evergy expansion plan as it comes through Midtown. And Riverside, of course. During the meeting, we learned about Evergy's plan to bring the huge transmission poles carrying high voltage lines that will traverse historic neighborhoods, parks, rivers in the heart of Wichita. The planned route, if you don't know, starts up here. This is like 17th and Emporia, and it'll go down to 11th, cut over to NIMS, and go all the way to about the Keeper of the Plains. So those red lines you see, those are what some of the neighbors, that's where they kind of had some ideas. Maybe if they went, instead of just straight down Topeka or Emporia, they went over on the railroad tracks, and maybe we could avoid some of those red dots. All those red dots are National Registry of Historical Places. The blue ones are Wichita and state. The green ones are parks and civic buildings that we cherish. The green patches are National Historic Districts. The purple are scenic views that we think are very important. And then if you notice this spot right here, that is an underground, that was undergrounded when?
Last summer.
Last summer.
March to May.
Evergy came and put in a voltage line underneath, or a power line underneath the river, under Shady Way, under the river, and under 12th, and pop back up in the alley across the street. So we started a little initiative called the Heart of Wichita, and we are wanting to put together a group of people to learn all about this issue, what it takes to put something underground. We're not going to make an ask until we have the knowledge. Unlike the headline today, I never said the word fight with Evergy. We are going to learn this inside and out. Hopefully we'll have some guidance from Evergy, and we'd like for you to, there's a sign-up sheet over there if you'd like to help us learn. We've set up an online library. It's at a Facebook page called Make Waves. So I guess that's all. If you want to join me, sign up. I guess I'll stand for questions.
Does the DAB have any questions or comments on this agenda item?
Just one, is the basic thrust that you think you can get Evergy to, or your ask is for more underground?
Well, hopefully like they did here, they go under the bridge. I don't know how much they're willing to do. There's a really beautiful little zoo down here. On the east side of the river, there's nothing there. There's no sewer lines, there's no buildings, there might be a garden. So,
Or a 5-foot diameter pole,
yeah,
depending on.
yeah, oh, big giant poles. I went and photographed the ones up there, and they have 2 or 3 layers of graffiti covering paint. They're different colors of grays and tans, and you can see that they're having a real problem with them. They're already coming down from 17th to almost 14th. You're from Evergy, aren't you? So, you know, and also there's gonna be 2 miles of underground high voltage lines from 13th and Ridge to the new water plant. So we're kind of thinking we ought to get the same treatment as West Wichita, maybe. So, anything else?
Do we have any other questions or comments from the DAB? All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Susie.
And there's flyers over here too, so.
All right, well, at this point, we are moving on to our agenda, public agenda, and this is number 6. This is any of agenda items. Any individual present that did not request to speak on the public agenda prior to the meeting may speak at this time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Don Sherman, Executive of Community Affairs with Evergy. I'm here to visit with you folks today. And basically, I got one job today, and that's just to listen. Listen to what you want to tell us about the transmission projects we got going on. We got one going on that's, we call it Riverside 17th. It runs from 17th and Emporia to zigzags and gets to 11th and Jefferson. And that's the one I'm here to talk about. Well, not here to talk about, here to listen about. But if there's another transmission lines that you want to ask questions about, please let me know. That's what I'm here for. Like I said, I have one job, and that's to listen to you today about what's going on with the transmission lines. And to make sure we get your questions right, Amber is here. She's in my department. She's going to make sure she records those, writes down those questions as you say them, so we can find a way to get all these questions, if it's allowed, Councilman Member Ballard, if it's allowed to get all these questions and then figure out the best way to work with you to get it back to your folks. So if that works for you, that's what we would like to do. And if you don't want to stand up and do your question, Amber got some index cards over there. You can write down the question, and we'd be more than happy to deal. The deal is I'm here to listen, and I'm really good. I'm about 100% of coming back with an answer. I'm really good at it. I don't have all the answers, but I know how to get them. So if you're willing to do that, we're here and we're willing to listen. Any questions? Is it okay? Do I call?
Okay, go ahead.
What do you want to do? I don't want to get out of order here.
We can start with members from the DAB who have questions.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Questioner.
I've got to start out by acknowledging that I have a real concern on how we're going to meet electrical needs for the future, because the demand is going to go nothing but up. But I also have a real concern, personally, if there were a 4-foot or 5-foot diameter steel pole going to show up a block from my house, I'd be pretty concerned about that. So I understand where people are coming from. So I guess what I would encourage you guys to do is, with the understanding or the recognition, from me anyway, that you've got to do something, or we're going to end up with blackouts and burnouts like the West Coast has habitually, and nobody's going to like that. Keeping in mind that demand is growing and has to be satisfied, I'd appreciate it if there was some way to do an economic trade-off on how to achieve a more aesthetic approach to these power grid solutions. Now, I don't know whether it's underground or not, but I know from a personal perspective, I like an underground line running to my house as opposed to an overhead power line. There are a lot of there are a lot of maintenance and safety issues and reliability issues that get satisfied by doing that. But also understand there's cost associated with it. So that's what I would encourage you guys to do, is really look at the cost trade-offs on this. And then I think the people who may want underground lines also need to recognize that there'll be a period of significant disruption while those trenches are dug, the lines are laid, and the recovery takes place. It's not an overnight thing. That would be my encouragement to you.
Thank you for your question, Amber. You got that? From Mr. Washburn, thank you. Next question, please.
Well, can it be anybody or the DAB board?
Go ahead. Anybody else from the DAB have a question? No? Okay.
My question is there, can you give me the percentage of cost from the 5-foot diameter pole to the underground? I mean, is it just so ginormous that Evergy can't possibly do that underground instead of a pole?
Okay.
Those poles are huge. I've been down to northeast Wichita and I saw what you did to that neighborhood and it wasn't pretty.
Okay.
It wasn't pretty.
Can I have your name, please?
No, it's Missy Short. I was just the.
Yeah, I'll say, I'm old, I couldn't really.
Are you sure you listened?
I listen. Did you get that from Missy Short? We'll get an answer for you.
Okay, I'll give you my email.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Sweet.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, it is true that two miles are going in underground in West Wichita from that 13th and Bridge will go up to 21st and Hoover and down a little bit to the water tower. And then over by her house, they put one underground. And it wasn't ditches. They dug a hole at each end and they went down 17 feet under the river and back up again. It was a whole summer of entertainment. And that's one thing we've done is we put this online library together. So if you have anything you want to send me, we're studying the costs. And I guess I'd like to know if when they do undergrounding like in a subdivision, does the subdivision pick up the extra costs or is it spread out throughout the whole Evergy family? Because if it's gonna be just spread out to Riversiders, that's not very fair. But, I don't think it would add that much. And I think the cost is coming down. That ground up there is supposed to be perfect for it. I don't know, we're still learning, but we have geologists and engineers and people teaming up with us that are giving us maybe it's a reasonable ask.
Okay.
We're hoping.
You got that, Amber?
Yep.
And your name again, please?
Susie Cunningham.
Susie Cunningham. Thank you very much for that. Let me get to Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, I think just to add to the context of that is it's more than just installation. I mean, you're talking long-term, so I would factor in, maintenance costs, and obviously you don't send a lineman to go work on an underground power line when you have issues. So I think just any context, any information that you can provide on the differences when it comes to maintenance, troubleshooting, when there are power outages with underground lines compared to overhead lines.
Excellent. Mr. Scott Lucas, you got that, Amber? Thank you. Mr. Washburn, did you have another question?
Well, I'd like you to add to this, I guess I'd call it expansion costs. I don't know how far in the future. I can't predict what energy usages are going to be. But you'll size, whatever you put in, it's going to be sized for probably a 10 to 20 year, 30 year period. At that point, if the energy demands are higher, then something has to change in the size of that wiring or cabling in order to support the demands. So that's the other thing I'd like you guys to consider, whichever route you go, whether it's overhead or underground, what's it going to take to expand this or increase the capacity 20, 30 years from now? I won't have to worry about it, but your kids will.
Yeah.
Excellent question. Thank you, Mr. Washburn. Did I see a hand go up over here? Oh, Anna.
With their permission, I can go ahead and share their emails with you.
Oh, yeah, but you have my permission.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Excellent, this is good feedback, and this is why I'm here. I got one job. Yes, sir.
Well, just a couple of things. Number one, every gas line in town is graded. In fact, on our street, we have 2 gas lines from the 2 gas companies that exist in this town.
Right.
Underground, so it can be done, and they don't have very many gas leaks with the new plastic. Another thing, surely they thought about running those ugly poles through a neighborhood that's over 100 years old.
With some of the parks too.
Or older. I mean, our house is 110. I mean, I can't imagine what they were thinking, and how could we exist for this many years, and we didn't need that, and now we do. Because I know the gentleman's talking about our overall use is gonna go up, but I probably use less electricity
Than you did
at
20 years ago.
920 Buffalo than we did in 1979 when we moved in.
Yeah, it's efficiencies, but
Right.
So,
Can you give me a question out of that? What do you
well, I
want?
mean, what were they?
What were they thinking?
What were they thinking?
Yeah. What were they, what was the strategy on thinking, oh, we'll just run this 5-foot pole, 100-foot tall, through this 100-plus-year-old neighborhood? They won't mind.
They learned their lesson on it.
We'll get an answer to that. I mean, and I'll just make a statement. Our baseline for doing this is that the grid there now has been there since 1950. We need to upgrade that. You guys deserve our best from us. You deserve to have a reliable electricity, and that's what we're trying to do. That's the baseline. What happened after that, we'll try to get the best answer we can to do that.
But I'm not being smart aleck, I don't.
No, I get it, I get it.
But I'm thinking, really?
I get it.
That's the best they could do?
I get it. What's your name, sir?
Doug Ballard.
Doug.
yeah.
Okay.
He's doing a double take on the.
Okay. Gotcha. You got that, Amber?
Yep.
Okay, yes.
I have one more question. I'm a geek and I watch Curb a lot. I used to have, my friend Dave used to be the attorney over there. So I watch a lot of the raid stuff. Can you tell us what it means that the FCC gave you 14% net return on these sorts of projects, infrastructure, or what does that mean?
We'll get an answer to that. I just want to make an addendum. I think we're talking KCC, not FCC, but we'll get an answer
Yeah,
to
because
that.
if you have an incentive to do it, a monetary incentive to do it, let's use it.
Yes,
You have
ma'am.
one other question. If you went under Shady, did you, under Shady Way?
Yep.
Yeah. And under the river there, then how come they get that treatment and the rest of the neighborhood doesn't get that treatment?
Okay. Got that, Amber? Excellent. She's awesome. Miss Welch.
So, have you guys, I know that you're here now at a board meeting, but, you know, these neighborhoods, they're very close and tight knit. Have you made any attempt to notify the neighborhoods or, reach out to them personally about what their personal thoughts on it?
Well, we did reach out to the neighborhood that runs from 17th and Emporia to 11th and Jefferson.
Okay.
We sent out letters, I think back in July of 2021, just to let folks know that we're just doing survey work. And keep in mind, we're talking about the existing line where the survey work was done. We haven't planned anything, let me make that clear. We have not planned anything on that route. All we was doing is survey work on where the line is or has been since 1950. That's it.
Jump the gun a little so we can learn.
Well, no, I'm glad you did. I mean, and let me say something. Let me say something. We want to work hand in hand with you folks to give us the input that we need to make this work. We're not, I'd rather it not be, you're in this camp, we're over in this camp, and then we figure it out if we could work hand in hand together, that's my job, and I'm in charge of community affairs. This is what I do. So if there's a way to make that work, that would be great. But I know this is something down the line, but I'm glad you brought it to our attention. It caught me by surprise because I didn't know. But that's why I'm here today, is to listen. Not give any answer, because I don't have them, but I can get them. I can get them very well. Yes, ma'am.
Pat Rogers.
Ted Rogers, okay?
So, you know, when the Northeast, when they put in the big holes and there was, I was ready to demonstrate these.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that we would do that to a community. And I know it went before the state legislature, I don't know what the rulings were, but I was just shocked. And here we do, okay, let's do another thing. We had a terrible public outcry about the Northeast area. Let's go to the Riverside. And how much money do you put into these projects in the community that you give money to kind of to look better to the neighborhoods? You know, I know you put some in the downtown area, put those into underground holes.
Okay. Thank you for that comment. And of course, that is not our intent to do that, but is there a question you want me to come back with? Because I want to, okay.
I asked, what are you thinking?
I think that's the theme here, I get it, okay. I get it, okay. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm city staff, I'm here to speak on another item that I live in the neighborhood,
Okay.
but also being construction. Now, we live down there, so thank you for this presentation. My question is actually it's twofold. So the first would be, what type of public engagement process happens with, from you to the residents that live in the neighborhood, with possibly the installation of an underground line, and then how long does it take to install an underground line?
Good questions. Amber will get those. I think I can speak that our goal is to have open houses on any projects that we do from this point forward. So even with the project running from 17th and Emporia to 11th and Jefferson, our goal was, even before today, was to have an open house, as many as it takes to get resident input on what we should do. So that's one thing we learned from the previous project. We had Course Correct, and we started having open houses, and this will be the first one. Just for example, we work hand in hand with the city of Wichita on that water plant up at Zoo and 21st or whatever. We had an open house in concert with the city of Wichita, so everybody up there in that area knew what we were doing, and it worked perfectly. So that's what we're going to do.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your.
What's your name now?
She's
She's with City of Wichita. Any other questions? Oh, let me get you then.
Madeline McCullough.
Okay.
My back door is 15 feet from where the lines were put, under Shady Way and under River. I got no notice. I was thrilled, but I want to know, how will people hear about it? If it's a public notice in the Derby paper, which I was not going to read that, if it's mailed to the homes, a lot of rental is in Riverside, so renters just throw that stuff in the trash, or landowners. Can sometimes be thrown away.
That's
because
true.
It doesn't concern them,
Right.
I think.
Right.
Or if it's mailed to the property owner, same thing, I don't live there, and whatever
Yeah.
he needs to do, they feel like it's a done deal. How will this outreach happen? This open house you had, how did you tell people to come to it?
The city of Wichita led that effort, but they sent it to a certain radius of folks
In the mail?
in the mail.
In the snail
I don't know. I don't know if they did
mail?
electronically or not.
We
Amber?
also coordinated that there were door hangers hung on every door, and it was on the city's website, I believe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So your question, did you get her question for you?
Yes.
Excellent.
I got that.
You got another? All right, let's go.
So, I would like to request that as you're figuring costs, you look at how much has been spent on your reliability program, which is helping us all feel better about the fact that Evergy has to cut limbs off our trees. That would not even be necessary if the lines were underground. And how many trees would be impacted by your plan through Riverside, since we only have one river that goes through this city, well, two technically. And putting these poles through the only part of town with mature, old-growth trees and the river seems like the amount of money you've spent on the reliability program would offset the amount of money that it will take to bury the lines.
Excellent question. Thank you. Amber, you good?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Washburn. Come on back.
It's an easy one. You don't even have to write it down. I didn't catch your last name.
Don Sherman.
Sherman.
S-H-E-R-M-A-N.
Don, we have a lady back there who has a question.
Whoa, I am so sorry.
Okay, John, I'm Bill Hunt, and my question is, what layers and levels are there after you receive public input that the neighborhoods, these historic neighborhoods, these property owners that are concerned about the effect on their property values, when you receive that feedback, if it is overwhelmingly, for God's sake, don't do this to our neighborhoods, then what are the levels after you receive that information and get back to the decision makers that determine what is done next?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
Excellent question. And I could just, I mean, our goal is, yes, I'll just leave it at excellent question. I got thoughts in my head, but this is your section, not mine, so we're gonna get your input. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the bill that you brought up a while ago, that came up with notification in properties that were adjacent to where this is going through and property owners. We also don't have any legal say to veto this. This is all gonna be at your goodwill, everybody's goodwill. But how are you gonna notify people in the river, along the riverbank or along Mims when nobody lives there?
You got that, Amber?
Well,
They need to make them.
it's a city amenity, and so.
Yeah, it's the whole city
Not
knows
just
this
us.
park. It fills up with people from all over Wichita, and really, even in the summer, people from all over come, and a lot of people come to photograph. So,
Bird watchers.
Right.
bird watching is a $60 billion a year
It
in the
is.
United States.
Wow.
So, you know, we're under the Central Flyway. We are where east meets west, Central Flyway, Oak Park, Mead Island, all of Riverside is a very crucial resting and nesting spot. And towers don't fit that very well.
Understood.
I mean, we're not trying, we want a firm grid. We want the expansion, we want all of, everything that these high-powered lines are gonna bring to the future. We just want it underground.
Understood. And I want you folks to know that, I mean, we want this input. And just so you know, I'm going to give you my email address. It's not private. I'll give you my direct number. Email address, if you're ready, donald.sherman@evergy.com.
Will you email it to us? Put it in your newsletter?
Yeah, if you email us, will it have your email on it?
If I email you, yeah, but they have my email.
Okay.
They have my email, okay? And if you wanted to call me direct, my phone number is 316-333-9393. So, but I'm saying all that is that I don't want this conversation to stop tonight. I want us to somehow realize that we're strategic partners and we're in this together to make Wichita better. I'm lifelong Wichitan, born here, raised here, has never left. So I'm with you. Just let us know how we can help. If you got any follow-up questions, you can email me. But we're going to find a way to get these answers back. I'll work with Councilmember Ballard and Ms. Lopez to get it back to you the best way possible. Uh-oh, I messed up.
How
Okay.
And technically, it should be a question, but I think it's going to be maybe more of a statement. One of the other questions. One of the questions that was posed here tonight was, we talked about property owners, we talked about renters, but who's watching out for those areas along the parks, along the river, and along the walking trails, because nobody, so I'm not sure that's a direct quote, but I think that was kind of the gist, like, who's watching out for those? And what it says, if those are being watched out for, many of those locations by different city departments, by the city as a whole. And so, is that not true?
Yeah.
You're probably working with different areas, different departments, different personnel in the city
Yes.
to come up with the best solution.
Correct.
Also, taking in everybody else's. So those areas are being watched over, protected, and have input
Right.
by the departments. So people want their voices heard. As a landowner of a parks department, then they just need to get with Councilmember Ballard or get with different departments and, people from those departments.
Yeah, a couple of us in right here.
No, I'm not
Work with Gary. I'll name them. Work with them. I'll name them. Gary, Forestry. I mean, we try to work hand in hand to make sure things work right. But you are exactly right. Those are the folks who watch out after the city of Wichita property, the park board and all that, so. Any other questions? I don't want to take up too much, but I'm here.
What we can do is we can go ahead, if you guys have any questions, you have my email and you have Councilmember Ballard's email, forward those to us, and we'll go ahead and forward them to you, and CC everybody in it.
I have a logistics question. Are you gonna answer all the questions to one place that we can, I want it more than the answers to my question.
I'll get with these ladies and figure it out.
They'll go to the board and then we'll get all the answers to all the questions. Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Truly appreciate your time, and like I said, let's work together on this, and we'll just figure it out together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I might add something to what Don said from the city standpoint. Again, Gary Jansen, city engineer, and Leslie, I appreciate you bringing that up. So my staff within the city engineer's office works with all franchised utilities on permitting within the right of way, and there are requirements within their franchise agreements. We do this on a daily basis. There's over 8,000 permits a year. Transmission lines are a little bit different animal. Sometimes we're using private easement, which kind of makes some sense. And so even from our planning and zoning perspective, or even a permitting perspective, it's a little bit harder for us to really have an impact on what happens. However, some things have changed. The law was referenced. There was a new state law put into place last year that put some requirements on those who are going to provide power over 69 kV. There's certain requirements that go with it on project sizes. And I wanted to address maybe that public outreach part, because we want to be a part with that. We want to be a partner with that. We've worked great with Evergy over the years, tremendous partners, and we want to keep that going. And our goal within my office, within engineering, is to help with that public outreach. There's requirements within that law that talks about public meetings, when they have to happen so that they accommodate people. And there's a requirement that there has to be an elected official there. There has to be someone from the KCC there during these meetings. Now, none of this means that we have the authority necessarily to tell Evergy you're not going to do that. But what we will do is to make sure that we help this process and address these questions also. Evergy does a tremendous job with it. Don's been doing this for a long time. We've all come to know and appreciate what he does, but we want to help with that and help be able to provide information to our elected officials. I will tell you, so I'll talk about one thing real specific on public notice, and then I want to talk about how this is going citywide real quick. Very good points brought up about these commons areas, the areas along the river. We'll make sure that our folks are engaged. We try to look at, so the ordinance, the law requires within 660 feet of any transmission lines, both all directions, that there's notification. That's a typical block long, right, 660 feet. We try to use our best judgment on what makes sense in that area, because the challenge is, where do you stop? And that doesn't mean we don't want people to know. There was a comment made about these notifications being on social media. That's where most people get their information, so it'll be out there regardless. We can't stop anybody from coming to these meetings. They're public meetings, right? With the direct invites, we do door hangers, we do letters, both, because there's a lot of areas that are rentals. We've learned that over the years on all of our projects, that if we send letters to rental houses, they usually throw them in the trash without even opening them, because they see it from the city of Wichita. Some people still do that anyway. Last comment I wanted to provide is, my staff and I are meeting with Evergy staff on a monthly basis, looking at potential projects across this entire city. It's not just Riverside. Because of the requirements that Evergy has for upgrading their system, some of these requirements come from federal law, that the height of these transmission lines has to be higher than it was in the past. Well, unfortunately, you can't move lines up higher on a pole without putting in a taller pole, just general terms. Not speaking for Evergy, but when you've got to meet federal regulations, at some point in time, something's got to get it right. Point being, we're meeting with them on a regular basis, staying in close communication, looking at projects, keeping in mind all of these things that I heard tonight. Nothing was really new here, knowing what the law requires, and trying to provide the best information we can, working closely with Evergy, providing information to our elected officials, so that we can all hopefully collectively make the right decision going forward. So I just want to provide that real quick. We'll be engaged, we'll stay engaged. If there's ever any questions, anybody can reach out to me. My contact information is really easy to find all over the internet, and so we've always got a beat on this, working closely with Evergy and understanding what generally is happening, so we can be a part of this too. So.
And if you can't find Gary, send it to me, I'll send it to him.
And for our audience watching from home online on Facebook, we will go ahead and collect your comments and your questions, and we will forward them to Don Sherman, or you can find them as part of the minutes. And with that, we can go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is new business. And for item number 7, we have affordable housing update. Logan?
My name is Logan Bradshaw, and I'm from the Department of Housing and Community Services in the city of Wichita. And, you also play the video. This is for reference if you forgot to afterwards. It's a YouTube video. And tonight, we're here to provide a video related to a very unique opportunity that the city has coming up, related to the Affordable Housing Fund. And so, we're trying out a new format, because oftentimes when we're trying to make it to a lot of district advisory board meetings, it can be tough for staff to hop. Like, for example, our director, Sally, the one who will be speaking in the video, she's hopping from 3 district advisory boards tonight. So we're trying this new feedback, or we're trying this new video format in order to be able to utilize this video to reach out to various neighborhood associations, district advisory boards, and just ensure that everybody who is receiving information about various services is hearing the same message. And then we will, or I'll just answer any questions and collect the feedback after the fact. So at this point, we'll go ahead and play the video.
Hello, I'm Sally Stang. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Services for the City of Wichita. And I'm excited to be able to present today a prospective new program, the Affordable Housing Fund. The Affordable Housing Fund is being made available to the American Rescue Plan Act. The federal government made funds available to state and local governments to respond to and support the response to COVID-19 pandemic. And the city, back in June of last year, did a lot of public engagement to find out what type of programs were really necessary to respond to and recover from COVID-19. And affordable housing came out as the #1 response and needed program identified by many of the constituents. In August of 2021, the City Council approved an allocation of $5 million to the American Rescue Plan Act funds in order to support an affordable housing fund program. Very exciting. So they started to engage a consultant, Development Strategies, Inc. That consultant did research in similar programs across the country, including Tulsa, Oklahoma, Louisville, Kentucky, St. Louis, Missouri, Greenville, South Carolina, and Franklin County, Ohio. They met and comprised a technical assistance and advisory committee. They met 4 times from September through December to have facilitated conversations about the real need of affordable housing in Wichita. And they came back with recommendations. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So first, let's start out with what is affordable housing? I get asked that question often. In general, HUD defines affordable housing as housing in which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of their gross income for rent and utilities, or mortgage and utilities. So people who pay more than 30% are considered cost burden, and their housing is not affordable to them. To give some perspective, in Wichita, a decent, safe, quality 2-bedroom apartment costs about $850 a month, including utilities. And at the Kansas minimum wage, a household would have to work 118 hours a week to afford that 2-bedroom. That's why our housing can be so unaffordable. But I often hear from people, housing in Wichita is cheap. Why do we need more affordable housing? And compared to other areas of the country, yes, our housing costs are lower, but also income is lower. The amount of wages people earn are lower than those other high-cost areas. Approximately 44,000 households in Wichita are cost burdened. They pay more than 30% of their gross monthly income for their rent and utilities or their mortgage and utilities. And cheap housing isn't necessarily quality affordable housing. We need affordable housing that is quality, and it has energy efficiency and is a safe place for people to raise their families. Another issue why we need additional affordable housing is that building costs actually exceed the appraised value. Can you imagine how frustrating to go out and build a brand new, modest 3-bedroom house, costs about $180,000, and in some areas of the city, that house, brand new, will only appraise for $90,000. That's what's happening in many areas of our community, which makes it very challenging to add more units to our portfolio of quality affordable housing in our community. Low home values diminish a family's ability to build generational wealth. Homeownership is the American's dream. People invest in their homes and hope to see their homes increase in value so that they can pass that generational wealth down to the next generation. And in areas in which housing prices are stymied, that doesn't happen. So we looked at ARPA funds and how far could $5 million go? Well, if you look at building new single-family homes, like I said, it costs about $180,000 to build that new home. And it's going to appraise for about $90,000 to $100,000, leaving a $70,000 gap. With $5 million in ARPA funds, we could possibly build 70 homes. To do single-family gut rehab, we'd be investing $50,000 in an existing structure to bring up the quality, improve energy efficiency, and make quality affordable housing. At $50,000 per unit, we'd get about 100 units. Single-family renovation, this is mainly repair of major systems, roofing, HVAC, things like that. We could, at about $25,000 each, we could get about 200 units. And if we were to build new multifamily housing, we'd be looking at about a $40,000 per unit gap, so we'd do about 125 units. Now, we're not proposing putting all our eggs in one basket. We know a nice mix of different opportunities is what our community really needs. So just to get some perspective, home repair is typically $5,000 to $25,000. It's usually done as a grant or a forgivable loan. It's based on homeowners, and it's generally used for weatherization, major systems, roofs, structural repairs, windows, ADA accessibility, and or asbestos abatement. Renovations or rehabs are usually more comprehensive. They're over $25,000. They can go $25,000 easily up to $80,000, $100,000, depending on the scope. They're usually done as a loan or 0% loan in these affordable housing fund programs. Grants are much less common. They're usually developer focused, and they leverage other funds and focus on preserving affordable housing that already exists. And then there's homeowner services. And those are preparing people to become first-time home buyers through financial or credit counseling, home buyer or owner education, down payment assistance and closing cost assistance, property mortgage assistance, insurance coverage, home maintenance classes and resources, and grants to nonprofits. So those are types of eligible projects. So eligible uses that we see are single-family renovation or rehabilitation. That could be for sale for first-time home buyers or for affordable rentals. We do have a caveat that rentals can only be done if paired with low-income housing tax credit, Section 8, or other program that has long-term affordability, so that we can ensure that those rental properties stay affordable in the long term. Home repair for existing low-income homeowners, housing services, and new construction of affordable single-family homes. Who are the eligible applicants for this funding would be for-profit developers, nonprofit developers, those who have a good track record and no outstanding funds. And for housing services would be nonprofit service providers that have demonstrated capacity. And those programs that they develop would be targeted to those in a homeownership situation under 80% area median income. And in rental situations, those at 60% area median income with a priority for those at 50% or below. Home repair and housing services would be limited to those at 80% area median income. Just to give you an idea, you can see the chart that identifies the income limits at the three different levels, 50%, 60%, and 80% of area median income. And those are determined based on the number of people in the family. So a family of 4 could have an income of $60,650 and qualify for programs related to home ownership, down payment assistance, homeowner rehab, or purchasing their first home. We also have a unique opportunity in that the Wichita Housing Authority has been struggling for a couple of years to raise the funding necessary to rehabilitate its portfolio of single-family homes. There's 352 single-family homes identified on this map by little purple dots. And HUD has underfunded the public housing program for decades and provided a resource called RAD to try and allow housing authorities to convert their public housing to a Section 8 platform so that they could secure private debt to rehab those properties. The problem was we were unable to secure a lender, not even HUD would issue a loan in order for us to complete those repairs. So we've been strategizing with HUD on ways to dispose of that portfolio through sales or demolitions if necessary, and then cycle the funding from those sales back into more affordable housing under a different type of platform. So this provides us a unique opportunity now that we have the Affordable Housing Fund, and I'm going to show you an example here. So again, all of those single-family homes are indicated by purple dots. The stadium site is just on here for reference, so we can kind of get a visual of where we are. And then we've identified 2 clusters of homes, one up on North Minnesota, Hyatt Ash and 25th Street, and the other down south at Haskell and St. Clair. And this is where there's a grouping of these homes where we see if we had a targeted investment in the neighborhood surrounding these homes, that investments in these homes and surrounding it would bring up the entire neighborhood. This is really, really exciting, and it's an opportunity that we've never seen before and probably will never see again. So the ECA is the Established Central Area. That is the border around the outside. And the floodplain is identified as this kind of aqua-colored, and those are properties or areas that fall within the 100-year flood. So as an example pilot project, here zooming in on the area of North Minnesota Ash and Paya, and this is all just speculative. And if we had a project where we took those 46 homes and a developer put in a bid in order to purchase those, do the renovation, sell some for affordable homeownership and some for affordable rentals, but then invested targeted outreach for projects in the quarter-mile area surrounding this area. You'll see the yellow rectangles identify vacant land that could be acquired and have infill single-family home development. Randomly selected some other projects where we could do home repair for existing homeowners. And then there's also an overlay, the red dots, are properties that are currently in tax foreclosure. And so if we were able to do all of these items, 32 for-sale rehabs, 14 rental rehabs, 5 new single-family homes constructed, 20 homes getting homeowner repaired, down payment assistance, supportive services, we could end up with 71 quality affordable units. It would be a total investment of about $7 million in order to do that. Be a net increase in property values of $2.5 million, and an increase in property tax revenue of $70,000 a year. Would require gap funding in the amount of $3.8 million. When you think about that, we have a $5 million fund. If we did $3.8 million on one project, it wouldn't leave much behind. However, that unique opportunity is the fact that the majority of this work starts with those Wichita Housing Authority homes, and included in the development cost is the actual purchase of those homes for $2 million. That $2 million would cycle back into the Affordable Housing Fund, leaving the whole project costing a net of $1.8 million for just $25,000 per unit. That's a tremendous return on investment. Currently, we're spending $80,000 to $100,000 in subsidy just to build one new single-family home. So if we can get houses brought up to high-quality, affordable, energy-efficient housing for $25,000 a unit, and then watch as not just the units that get work on them improve, you'll see home values in the surrounding neighborhood also improve, which can bring the whole neighborhood up. This is what makes this so exciting. So the Affordable Housing Fund priorities as proposed today is that projects that renovate those Wichita Housing Authority homes will have the highest priority because they actually allow funding to revolve back into the fund. Projects within a quarter mile of those Wichita Housing Authority homes, because we want to see that when we make a targeted investment, we see the whole neighborhood being brought up. Projects located in formerly redlined areas and qualified census tracts. So that's one caveat to using the ARPA funds, is that it is a requirement by the Department of Treasury that for affordable housing purposes, the funds can only be used in areas in which residents were disproportionately affected by COVID-19. And one way they say that we can meet that requirement is by only doing projects in what they call qualified census tracts. And those are census blocks in which 50% or more of the households are low income. And those are identified by HUD each year, and they are actually identified on this map here. So the areas in light blue are the areas that fall within what HUD calls a qualified census tract. So that limits our ability to do any of these projects to just within those areas. But we also recognize that there were many policies in the early 1900s that were called redlining. And there were areas in which the federal government defined areas of high minority concentration as dangerous, and homeowners or potential homeowners could not get FHA loans in order to buy houses in those areas. And those are called redlined areas, and they are also fall within many of these qualified census tracts. So we want to see projects that are located in the qualified census tract. And if they're in a redlined area, that's also a plus. We want to see sustainable homeownership opportunities. If we move people into homeownership, we want to make sure that they can stay in homeownership for the long term. We want to be able to leverage other funding sources. We want projects that already have site control or ownership in place because we don't have a lot of time to act, and we need to get this funding obligated in the next 2 years. And we want to improve the quality of affordable rentals in our community. We are proposing that we create an affordable housing fund review board. That board would be comprised of 7 members appointed by the mayor and council, 3 with 4-year terms and 4 with 2-year terms. We want to see that they have relevant experience, such as working in finance, housing services, construction, building, housing development, capacity building, community engagement, or community leaders from these focus areas to serve on this review board that will review applications, funding applications, and make recommendations to the council on which projects to fund. But they can't have any conflict of interest. They can't personally be recipients of any of the funding, and they can't serve on the board for an organization that might actually receive the funding. And that board would also be used to review other affordable housing program activities, such as our housing development loan program and our community housing development organization fund. So in summary, what we're proposing is through request for proposal processes to solicit funding applications from partners in our community for programs that do homeowner repair and renovations for low-income homeowners, new construction of affordable single-family homes, repair and renovation projects for low-income rentals that have long-term use restrictions, housing services for including homebuyer readiness, budgeting, and homeowner and renter education, and down payment assistance. At this point, we are seeking input and feedback from the community, from our district advisory boards, neighborhood associations, and citizens alike. So we want to know your questions. We want to know what you like or dislike about the proposed program. We want to know what is missing or confusing, because I'll be honest with you, affordable housing finance is pretty complicated. And please email any comments to wha@wichita.gov. Thank you.
So at this point, we will.
Well, hello. I'm Sally Stan. Services for the city of Wichita.
Would you mind pulling the PowerPoint and taking your own? Thank you. So at this point, go ahead.
I really appreciate the information, and I think it's an excellent concept. It looks like it's been well thought through. There are 3 things I would encourage you guys to consider as you're walking through all this. One of them has to do with ownership. If the properties are to be rehabbed, refurbished, built new, and ownership's going to take place, perhaps a model something like what Habitat for Humanity does, where there's sweat equity involved and people are brought up to speed, at least aware of what kinds of maintenance things they're going to step into as part of home ownership. If it's a rental, that there's some kind of fair and equitable process for both the rental ownership and the rentee for any kind of potential problems, up to and including eviction. And then the third thing that is missing, I think, I didn't see it anyway, is community development. This is an excellent concept in rehabbing these, I hate the term red line districts or whatever, but I don't know that they'll be successful without an infrastructure to support it. You know, I heard, and it's been months ago now, I haven't heard anything about it, that there was some concept as an example in some communities to have community grocery stores again. If community grocery stores, if there are not services available within the community as it grows or as it's developed, I'm not sure how it will succeed, especially since at least some portion of the inhabitants of that area are going to be of a low enough income level that they may or may not even have private transportation. So those are the 3 things I would consider you guys to think about as you walk through this.
Thank you so much for that feedback. And if I might add, I think you're right on with community development, and you mentioned food deserts in certain areas of Wichita as well. We are hoping that this initiative can work in conjunction with another new city initiative, the Wichita Land Bank, which will, land banking is very complicated and we're still working through those processes. But at face value, it's a mechanism for the city of Wichita to turn tax delinquent properties into productive use. And so Sally mentioned on the map, the red dots were properties that we've mapped out that we've indicated through doing research with the county, but those are tax delinquent properties. And so there's a possibility, theoretically, down the road, when the land banks are established, that the city could possibly come into possession of those tax delinquent properties, offer them up for sale with a use restriction, possibly build a grocery store, like what you mentioned. So that's definitely something we are working to merge these two initiatives together, so that they play off one another.
It's kind of, that's 22, I guess, when these properties are upgraded and the value increases, then the taxes for the neighboring properties are going to go up. What is the mechanism for helping those people if they can't afford an increase in cost for staying in their home?
That's a very good question as well. I don't know that facet has been thought through, but what I will say is the example, the pilot project that Sally mentioned and modeled in the presentation, that's like a one-in-a-lifetime situation, right? We don't actually anticipate developers, for-profit or not developers, to come in and, propose an overhaul such as that. And also, change is slow, so we anticipate it to be more of a, a couple of houses here, a couple of houses there. And so hopefully that change will happen gradual enough to where possibly other homeowners in the area aren't priced out of the property per se. But that is definitely something to take into consideration that we will pass on. Anything else?
If they work the Minnesota plan like you're talking about, and that's, I think we should manage doing it because it's really close to newer houses, and so working in a unit, I think has some advantage. Does that mean that the other, out of the 45, you exclude those from 352 houses that are owned, you'll put those on the multiple list for sale to owner occupants?
So we're proposing possible affordable ownership opportunities. We are also thinking through possible affordable rental opportunities. As Sally mentioned, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to this, and really we need to be able to tailor the approach to meet the needs of the community. Did that answer your question?
The building wealth essentially involves homeownership, and I really see that the rental portion of it really kind of undermines that.
Okay. I'll provide that feedback.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for that good point. And also kind of piggyback, I think Linda just brought up the other aspect of like the increase in home values, which I think is an important part of this because we're raising, if we're addressing affordable housing, and I understand I usually go way outside scope anyways, but that's going to be very difficult in a city with a $7 minimum wage. Regardless, the other thing I would encourage you to consider in your models is the price of transportation, because there just isn't viable public transportation here. And so if you're going to live in Wichita, you have to own a car somehow. And so that goes into the cost of living. And if that's basically an additional half a rent payment or $200, like depending on insurance and gas and all that stuff. So incorporating transportation, I bet it would look worse if we started counting people's car payments. Some questions that I have that would kind of help me understand this is like what percentage of the city in general is renting? Thinking about like what kind of models for living and affordability we have. The other parts of this that I'm kind of interested in, and that you may be able to answer is, if you're selling off these homes, is this money going into like buying some back eventually? Too, so that's kind of maybe just one one question is, I would hate to see the city get out of affordable housing, because I think in order, like, people need to have options that are not found within the market to live on the planet, right? I mean, we have to be here, we're born here, and so like, I love city affordable housing because it removes some of that from the market and lets people just live. On the other hand, in order to do that successfully, I would love to see a program within affordable housing that prioritized helping, not necessarily renter education, but like renter unionization. So different tenants union programs that the city could support, tenants bill of rights in the city, you know, they're like going to your point about like how we manage that tenant landlord relationship. But a stronger political capacity on behalf of renters seems like it's very important in something like this. And additionally, too, I mean, there isn't a neighborhood in the city that isn't in a food desert, you know. And that sort of community organizing, if you want to help the community, you have to give them political power to be able to do that. And that seems to me, especially in a city that's probably close to majority renter anyways, that comes from renter unions. I think those are the main.
Okay, I'm gonna try to address all your questions.
I think we're recording. You just go back and play it.
Feel free to touch me, but the first thing I wanted to let you know is I don't have the percentage of renters off the top of my head, but we will get that to you. That can be pulled from census data, and so hopefully we can get a relatively fresh number for you on that. But that'll have to be later this week. And then the next thing, you mentioned that you don't want the city to get out of the affordable housing thing, right? So let me give you a little bit of context on why we're looking to reposition not all of our affordable housing opportunities, but just our public housing opportunities. So nationwide, across the country, there is, like, I'm really passionate about this. There's $26 billion in deferred maintenance for public housing properties all across the country. And the city of Wichita is not unique in that statistic. I would love to walk you through some of the public housing properties that we have and we are currently managing, that we do our absolute very best to take care of and provide decent, safe, and sanitary living conditions for our tenants. But unfortunately, HUD doesn't give us enough capital fund each year to keep those properties in decent, safe, and sanitary conditions. And so back in 2017, we looked to try and reposition our public housing. Public housing authorities across the country are doing this under a program called RAD, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. Sorry, it's tough. Demonstration. But, yeah, public housing authorities across the country are working to transition under this program called Rental Assistance Demonstration. And the city actually in October successfully managed to convert 221 of our properties under this program. However, there are multifamily properties. They're the ones that investors can actually pencil out on. Unfortunately, our scatter site portfolio is too scattered to be able for us to secure financing to make that RAD transaction work out. And so this is why we're possibly pursuing this opportunity.
How often do we buy and sell within the program?
I believe the last home that we acquired was in 2009, so it's been quite some time. For the very reason I just mentioned, HUD just doesn't give us enough capital and dollars to keep the properties up and provide those.
I do think Zach's point is very well taken, though, that, you know, within at least what was presented, you know, I know we're funneling back development dollars back into renovations to, you know, continue the process of home ownership or home rental. But I do think, you know, as you potentially lose the potential number of total properties, I do think a reinvestment strategy plan needs to be part of that as well.
maybe I missed something, but I thought you referenced, or thought she referenced, Sally, two potential areas in there for acquisitions. One of those, and maybe I heard it wrong, was a land grant pool.
Is the what?
Land grant,
The land bank?
yeah, land bank, and the other is delinquent tax properties.
I think that was for the developer to additionally.
Yeah, so if you wanna maybe go, I think it was like maybe.
Oh, guys, don't do that, just tell me.
Oh, I was gonna pull the map up because it helps
Oh, okay.
provide some context. No, I wasn't gonna play the video again.
Sure.
So that example where you have the red properties for the tax sale, the yellow ones for vacant, and then the public housing properties that were sectioned off on that map. That was a hypothetical situation to show you how we could get the per unit cost all the way down to $25,000, which, as Sally mentioned, is an extraordinarily low return on investment for creating that many opportunities for 71 households is quite a bit. What I was saying is if we could utilize this initiative and work it with the land bank in order to meet other needs, because this is just for affordable housing.
So, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, and with that, we have our next agenda item, which is item number 8. This is the Propel Small Business Loan Fund update. We have Jamie Duster, our deputy city clerk, here to make that presentation. Jamie, give me a minute here while I pull up your presentation.
So first, has anyone heard of Propel before? Anybody? Maybe not? Okay, well, good. Here's the next one. All right, so Propel, it started out in District 1, January 2021. It was a vision of Councilmember Johnson to use his high fund money to come up with a revolving loan fund to pay short-term loans at a low interest rate to underfunded businesses in the district, focusing on minority-owned, women-owned, just something to help them get by. We launched Propel May of 2021 in the district, and it started out really well. We had it open for a month. We got 11 applications, which we thought was great. It turned out, of those 11 applications, only 2 were in District 1. Of those 2, 1 was funded simply because the other one didn't turn in all their required paperwork. What became of that is we found out we had a need for Propel to be in the other districts as well. District 6 and District 3 were the majority of the other applications that we had. So we sat down after the closure of the first round of funding, we're like, how can we do this where everybody can benefit from it? And we got a donation from Interest Bank for $100,000, and they wanted to use that towards citywide all-district funding. We also were able to secure $220,000 in CDBG funds to incorporate with that. So we have a total of $400,000 right now for the Propel School District loan, and it is citywide. Now that $80,000 first, that still stays with District 1, simply because it's their money, it came from their high fund sales, is that by ordinance. The rest though, however, is open up citywide. Next slide. Couple of eligible uses are businesses that have been established at least 2 years. Those that are for profit, nonprofits cannot apply. Eligible uses, advertising, office supplies, inventory, just kind of general business functions can be used. You can't use it for renovations, for example, because with the CDBG funding, that goes into a gray area and there has to be all these different assessments done. So we just took remodel renovation out of the program. Some specifics, during round 1 of Pro when it was just District 1, it was only up to 15,000. We have increased it to 20,000. That doesn't guarantee you're gonna get 20, that just says you're up to. We have a loan review team made up of bankers and all kinds of outside people who they determine that, we don't. It is that 3% interest for 36 months, so very low interest rate. So that you're not really gonna find it at a bank. So a lot of benefits can benefit this that aren't typically bank eligible. There's no application fee, no collateral. Applications are open currently. We opened January 18th. We closed on March 18th. We've had about 15 people apply so far. So what we need from you, since you guys are in the know for your district, you are the ones who are out in the community, you know the businesses, know the people, just spread the word. We have different postcards and literature available for you if you'd like to pass it out. And we also have wichita.gov/Propel is the website. That's where you can find an application. You'll find help desk information. You'll find my email. You can always contact me if you need flyers, if you need help for anything. There is a huge list on there of what qualifies and what does not qualify as well for the loans. That is, that's really it. We want to get the word out. We want people to apply. We've got a month and a half left for this first round. We want to get rid of that 400.
What's the due date, Jamie?
March 18th.
Well, thank you, Jamie. One comment that I want to add is that the information is also out there in different languages. I believe it's out there in Spanish, application, and all the paperwork requirement, and it's also in Vietnamese. Is that correct?
We have it in Spanish. We do not have it in Vietnamese. We have not been able to locate a translator to do it. Every translator we've talked to says it'll be 2 or 3 months out, but we needed it like 3 months ago. So.
All the information's out there in Spanish.
Yes.
If you guys know somebody that could benefit from that. Do you guys have any questions, any comments on how we can help Propel get to the correct people who need to apply for this program?
You sharing with Ariel?
Yes. We had a stakeholder meeting. He was on it.
And Center for Entrepreneurship at WSU.
Yep.
How about the SBA?
The who? SBA, small business? Yes. They were on that stakeholder meeting as well.
I just have a question about the loan. Where does that money go back? Does it kind of revolve back into the program?
Yes, it's a revolving loan fund, so all the payments go back into the program so that we can supplement it for years to come. So we'll do different rounds of it. We haven't figured out that timeline, if we're gonna do it twice a year or not. I would like to do it 3 times a year at least, but it's kind of just generating popularity right now, getting the word out, and then seeing how it picks up. During the first round, when we did it for District 1, there was also a grant that opened at that same time, so more people applied for that grant funding for their business than a loan. So it kind of depends on what else is going on out there during that time.
Have you checked with the SCORE counselors, they're part of the SBA, and they do consulting, and they might be a good resource for you to develop some contacts.
I know in our stakeholder meeting, there was a lot of people involved in it. There was over, I think, 50 people on the call.
There's a whole group of retired veterans people that do the counseling for SCORE.
Okay.
Work with SBA.
Okay.
And you might reach out to them specifically.
Okay, we will do that for school. Okay. We'll do that.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, and now we can go ahead and move over to our agenda item number 9, and we have a zoning case, zoning 2022-01. And with that, we have Matt Williams, Associate Planner with Metropolitan Area Planning Department, with the staff report for that.
All right, good evening, everybody. It shouldn't take too long. You want to pull up the photo on them? Okay, so tonight I've got just one zoning case. The applicant is requesting to zone this unplatted piece of property from single family to TF3 two-family. There's a desire to place a duplex on this lot. The lot is currently undeveloped. There is a shed on the property, but other than that, there's nothing there. Properties to the north and west of this are zoned single family. To the south and east is the little Arkansas River right there. The applicant will need to plat this land because it's not platted currently. It does align with our city policies and the community investments plan. The map from that plan identifies this as primarily for residential. And with that, staff is recommending approval of this project. Be happy to answer any questions about it.
In your backyard.
Oh, yeah. So, just for general information, yesterday I made contact with 3 of the 4 residents that live just east of there.
Okay.
And, or property owners. And all 3 of those would naturally like for it to remain vacant, but they have no resistance to the change in the duplex going in there.
Okay, yeah, good to know.
I would also share with you that there has been a resident there at one time. It was a horse and he died on site.
Okay. It did look like maybe a little pasture area.
Yeah.
All right, do we have additional questions or comments from the dad on this case? Or anybody who wants to make a motion?
I so move that we approve the motion as presented by the planning commission.
That's to approve?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Everybody, anybody voting yea on this motion?
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
Anybody voting yea can cast their vote now?
Yay.
Yay.
Angela, what's your vote? Yay. Linda?
I do have a question, or a request, that's it. Apparently, when the zoning request changes are published, or the request for the change is being published,
Okay.
evidently you guys have a list out there of the neighborhood association presidents, or
Yes.
points of contact.
Yes.
I would suggest that you get with Ann and get an updated list, because I found out about this around the horn, because it was sent to the prior president of our neighborhood association.
Anna, is that updated through the city manager's office?
Yes, there is a form that we have online, and I'll share it with you guys. But each neighborhood association is responsible for maintaining
I did that.
us involved, so, us informed. So I'll go ahead and forward that, and then we can send it to the correct department who will update it.
No, I've already done that.
You've done that?
Yeah,
Okay.
but he's evidently dealing with a set of information that's different than yours.
Mhm. Okay.
Because it went to Kathy Kozlowski.
Yes.
I can double check into that.
Please,
We'll get that updated.
Yeah.
because it may not be just me, it may be others.
Yeah. Definitely, we want to make sure that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And just for the record, that zoning case did pass unanimously, 6-0. Next on our agenda is item number 10, any updates, issues, and reports. Councilmember, I'll go ahead and pass this over to you. See if you have any comments, any questions?
I'm just excited to be here. Thank you guys for continuing to serve. There are lots of different opportunities for other boards. If you guys have any neighbors that need something to do and are interested in some of those, I would encourage them to, or anybody listening online, to check out the website and see if there's any board appointments that you would be interested in, and get those applications in. Just remember, you can always reach out to me through my email. It's just mballard@wichita.gov. I can do that.
All right, is there any reports from the different neighborhood associations you guys represent tonight? Any updates, any events coming up?
Nothing coming up. We hosted a meeting in January to Benjamin Hills Pleasant Valley. To just talk the future of neighborhood associations and kind of vision. And we hosted, Bill was there with Sherwood Glen, John was there with North Riverside. We hosted the Wichita Neighborhood Association. So I thought it was a good meeting. We had good discourse and context. And we'll see where it goes.
Maybe isn't super districty, but just an encouragement. The Wichita Brewing Company Relay Marathon is coming up in March, and it is a killer relay that goes through almost every part of the city. Starts on the west side and goes through Union Hills, Riverside, down south, Plainview, everywhere you can possibly imagine. 6 legs of it. So even if you don't consider yourself a runner, you could even make a leg from the bill.
Now,
in fact,
the Fat Boys are being
got 6 people. Anyways, check it out. I would encourage you to at least check out the route. There's usually 100 or so teams that run it. It's super fun at Raven City and coming up in March.
Cool. Thank you. All right, so we do have an announcement here in District 6. The Evergreen Neighborhood Resource Center has moved to its new location over at 2601 North Arkansas. This is our moving week. We are going to be open to the public for a soft opening next Monday. So if you guys want to check it out, come over and take a look at what the new facility looks like. I know Councilmember Ballard will be there next Monday, so stop by and say hi. And with that, we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting for today. We do have our next meeting is going to be held at the new Evergreen Community Center and Library at 6:30. So we'll see you guys then. If you want to check out the place, stop by a few minutes before, and you guys can get a walk around and see what the new place looks like. It has great public art, and it's going to be. We're happy to host you next month at our new location.
Is there a time for that opening on?
The soft opening is we're just gonna be open for the public. We are looking at having a grand opening on March 12th, and you guys will all get an invite in your email, within the next week or so. So the grand opening, we're gonna be celebrating, that's gonna be on March 12th. It's a Saturday, and it's gonna be in the morning.
But for this one, next Monday, it's
Next Monday
anytime?
is a soft opening. We're gonna be open for, our regular business, operation for business at 8:30 in the morning. You guys can stop by anytime during the day or within the next few weeks, but our grand opening, it's gonna be on March 12th.
March 12th, we'll have cookies and Kool-Aid.
We'll have cookies and coffee. Yes, I'll make another one. Councilmember Ballard, do you have any other comments? That's it. All right, well, thank you so much, guys. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.